When I first heard that people were trying to set up a prize for women's writing, I was sceptical and I was a bit resistant to the idea because I didn't want to be put away from the real prizes in a little special girls, camp. But I changed my mind as soon as the Stella Prize was set up because they did it so well.
The Stella established a whole different idea of what it was to conduct a prize. That it wasn't just about the prize winner. It was about getting those books promoted, getting those authors on the shelves at bookstores out the front. It was about the long list and the short list, and all the way along there being financial compensation for the authors, for women writers.
All of the extra publicity, the sales, increased sense of being taken seriously as a more literary writer. All of those things really do change careers and lives.
They got a huge amount of money for the prize, which immediately just ramps up the attention that it gets and the use of it to the person who wins it. Because $50,000 is an amount of money that writers who are used to living on air, basically, can live on for a couple of years. And then all the stuff around the Stella Prize that they included in the setup of it, like the Stella Count, looking at the representation of women writers in review pages and literary journal pages, and the schools program to try and even out the real disparity in the study of literature written by men as opposed to women.
It was my first novel. I really did not think that I was in with any chance at all. I will never forget the moment that I got the call telling me I'd won the Stella Prize. I think I was just like one of those people on commercial radio who gets told they won the concert tickets. I was just shrieking hysterically and then went straight out and got a glass of champagne in a nice bar. It was one of the best days of my life, to be honest.
When I won the Stella, I was a journalist, so I felt a bit like a counterfeit author. It felt like there was this whole other path open to me, that book writing was something that I could do, apparently, and it was something that I could keep pursuing.
Young women who are writing, aspiring to be writers, do have a lack of confidence around owning that identity and calling themselves a writer. They often introduce their work with a whole lot of caveats about how terrible it is. And I know for myself, it took me a very long time to be able to put writer down on a form next to my occupation, or just feel comfortable, owning that identity.
The book had been selling quite well anyway, but then winning the Stella Prize took it up a whole notch. It puts you in the public eye in a way that I never had been before.
My novel had been out almost a year. In the first 2 weeks after I won the prize, the book sold roughly the same amount of copies as it had sold in the whole year before. My agent managed to sell the book overseas in the US and the UK and Canada. Also sold the TV rights after winning the prize.
See What You Made Me Do is essentially a book about the phenomenon of domestic abuse. When I won the prize, it just felt like, wow, this is total validation of this subject matter, that it is now something that people want to read about. It was also just this feeling like, wow, this is a really important moment for domestic violence awareness.
I think it's important to remember that prizes are just a tiny part of the literary ecosystem, and they are not a measure of quality. And we can't rate and rank and grade artists in the way that you can athletes. In art, it's not about winners and losers. I think prizes are a really valuable record of a cultural moment. The Stella Prize particularly did create a whole lot of really important value, and that was in bringing attention to women's writing right into line with attention to men's writing.
You see the changes that have happened in things like the Miles Franklin's short list, long list, which I would guess is directly related to the Stella Prize and all of the consciousness raising that the prize has done.
The work of Stella is never done, and pursuing understanding and awareness and real structural change for women in general, but particularly for women writers. It's about like continuing a conversation about what it is to be a female writer or a non-binary writer, and what sort of hurdles you have to overcome in order to get those moments of creativity. And what's been coming for a while has been the long overdue conversation about the home and about the share of the burden of the housework, of the child raising, and all of that is absolutely central to the experience of so many female writers.
I would like to think we will not always need a special prize for women, but in terms of advances for women across the board, if you take your eye off the ball, they slide back very quickly. I suspect that the Stella Prize will always be needed to keep the other prizes honest and to keep Australian literature flourishing in schoolrooms and classrooms that has been written by women. So, long live the Stella as far as I'm concerned.